Now continuing in verses 3 to 7, we see that Paul had previously previously informed Timothy about remaining in Ephesus at that time, and now he's writing it again in this letter. He says, according as I encouraged you, I exhorted you, Timothy, as though a father and mother calling their child beside them, encouraging him to do what is right. So Paul says, according as I encouraged you to remain or stay with the holy people in Ephesus, while I am journeying to Macedonia. Paul himself was on a journey traveling to Macedonia. And why would he want Timothy to stay in Ephesus? He says, for the purpose and result that you would charge, or you would pass the message from yourself of what I am writing here. That you would charge to some people, some of the people there in Ephesus, not to differently teach, not to teach some other different doctrine, not to instruct people with different teaching, and neither to have attention to, neither to hold or turn your mind's attention, your thoughts, your attention towards or for the purpose of fables. Fables are legends, are fictional stories, myths. They are not true. Neither to have attention to fables and interminable genealogies. And that's an interesting word that Paul uses regarding genealogies. Interminable, or genealogies without a way of passing out from them, of getting away from them. You know, unending family trees, tracings, having word discussions about your genealogies or your generation, whether mankind's generation or about false gods, but they are interminable, never ending, which are the things that present seekings. You see, those fables and those interminable genealogies are the things that present seekings, and seekings are those things that are actions of always seeking out, always looking for the answers, questionings, searches, inquiries about these things, being on quests regarding those things. And Paul says, rather than God's stewardship. So that would be always on these quests, these searches about fables and about interminable genealogies, rather than, so they would be doing it more and more, rather than what? God's stewardship. More so than God's administration, the duty of house management. What house? God's household affairs, the administration of God's affairs. God's household affairs, of course, would include the correct teaching, correct instructions, caring for, protecting, nourishing, and helping those within God's household. Specifically, the stewardship in belief. And again, belief, that's within the sphere of action of the belief, the faith, the information that God gives us to believe. And Paul says, but the completion of the charge that Timothy was to pass on to the people in Ephesians or in Ephesus, the completion of the charge, or the ending issue, the fulfillment of it, not the passing away of it, but its fulfillment, its perfect state, is love. And that word love is the agape kind of love. God's love, godly love. And you can refer to the book of 1 Corinthians in chapter 13 regarding godly love, that agape kind of love. And of course it is the carrying out God's words or God's commandments, which is the correct usage, a way to manifest for us to live within the sphere of action of God's kind of love. So Paul said that the completion of the charge is godly love, out from or from the center of a clean heart. And the word heart, of course, literally would mean the organ that pumps the blood around the physical body. But in this context, it's referring to the center or the core of a person's being, the seat of your whole personal self and life. Paul says, out from a clean heart. And so that would be from the center or core of your being that is clean. It's free from any bad mixture. There is nothing mixed with it that would be bad. And from a good conscience. And the word conscience refers to a person's knowing awareness or perception which he has put together in his mind from what he has learned, from what he has been taught. Of course, the person's conscience should always be in relation to whom he sees as being his authority. And for Paul and all holy people, our ultimate authority and source of information is the only true God. So Paul says, from a good conscience. And of course, that is one that agrees with God's word, because God is the standard of what is good. And belief without hypocrisy. So that is unhypocritical faith, trust relative to God, which is not an answer in reply, as in pretense or acting a part on a stage, whereby you would not really be believing what God says, but you would be pretending to be believing. So Paul says, belief without hypocrisy, in other words, genuine belief, which some people in Ephesus, having failed, some of those people there had aimed off course. They had gone off course. They had deviated from the truth of God's word. They had gone away from the goal that Paul had given to them regarding godly love, regarding how to behave correctly. So Paul said that some people have failed, and consequently they were turned out into futile wording. Or so they were turned from where they should be, and they were dislocated, as though dislocating a shoulder from the rest of the body. These people were turned out into futile wording, as though futile collection of words. They had words, but they were futile words. They had a collection of things, words that they were discussing. However, those words were empty as to results, futile. They were meaningless, useless. Intending to be law teachers, those people who had been intending or willing to be teachers of the law, to be instructing other people about law. And law, of course, is what is to be administered and rightly behaved inside regarding what is the law, customarily and rightly used among the people. So these people were intending to be teachers of law. However, Paul writes, they are not mentally perceiving, those people who are doing law-type teachings, are not perceiving, they're not observing with their mind, not their physical eyes, but with their mind. They're not seeing to the end of knowing mentally what? Neither the things that they say, they don't know, they don't mentally perceive what they're talking about, nor concerning which things they truly make firm, or those things that they're setting as being steady, affirming. They're teaching regarding law, and they're affirming it to be true, but they really do not mentally perceive it, neither concerning what things they truly confirm or affirm. Paul continues then in verses 8 to 11 to explain